Hello, I am Meridith Elliott Powell, and welcome to Strategies to Help You Find the Hotspots so you can detect fraud, protect, and grow your bank. This is a three-part webinar series designed to help you use body language, which we are going to focus on today, financial information, and critical conversations to actually grow your bank, grow your organizations. And today's webinar is Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire with none other than Traci Brown. In this Power Pack session, Traci will share the strategies and ideas you need to ensure you can spot fraud and tell when someone is lying. She will walk you through the signs of lying, fraud, and identity theft so you can improve your bottom line and detect fraud before it happens. Now, Traci is a body language expert, keynote speaker, author, and three-time U.S. collegiate cycling champion. She speaks globally, and if you've seen her on NBC, CBS, and Fox TV, interpreting the body language of criminals and politicians, many times both labels describe the same person. That is one thing we all knew. For the last part, let's go ahead and understand that before Traci jumps in and gets started, if you want to know more about her, or more importantly, you want to know about body language, you can reach her at bodylanguagetrainer.com. So Traci, at this point, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Meredith. Well, you all heard I used to be a bike racer. I got pretty good at it. And actually, I grew up in Dallas. That's where I started racing. And, you know, I had a lot of memorable moments, really a lot of them. But there's, you know, I love the feeling of speed and living on the edge. It was awesome. But a lot of memorable moments. There's one I'll never forget. I was young. I was about 16, and I was invited to go on a training ride with some of the local pros. I mean, these guys were old and seasoned. I mean, old, like 25. And so they, this particular day, I didn't make it back to the bike shop with everybody. I'd been left out on the road when the pace got really fast. Excuse me. But when I got back, there was still some people hanging out in the parking lot, and my friend said, "You are not going to believe what happened to us out there today." And I said, "What went on?" And he said, "There's this guy. He's about your age, and he just left us all in the dust. He is unbelievable." And I said, "Who is he? Where is this guy?" He pointed about 30 yards across the parking lot. He said, "He's over there. We think his name's Lance." And I looked over, and there he stood, Lance Armstrong, and you know, little guy with an afro. He had an afro, and he had a headband around it, so he looked like a Q-tip. And from that day to the end of my career, I could never get rid of the guy. Wherever I was, there he'd be, causing some kind of buzz. Now, most of the time, I'd race in the women's pack. But sometimes I jump in the men's field and race right along beside him. And I really owe him and guys like him a credit for me becoming a body language expert. Because, see, I learned quickly that cycling at the elite levels for little people. It's not for big people. And so I had to get smarter, and I had to watch for these tiny signs. And when I began to correlate them with what would happen next, I had to outsmart my competition. And so, you know, over time, we found out how true that statement was about Lance being unbelievable. Like he's just one of those guys that you just knew something was up. You didn't know what it was, but something's not right. And you know, he was really responsible for probably the biggest scandal in sports history. I mean, I think we know where he ended up. You know, he had 7 Tours de France stripped, you know, his title stripped, and he can't compete in any sport ever again. And so everybody has a Lance Armstrong in their life, whether it's personal life, professional. And what I want to do, like I just thought that I had a hunch. what I want to do is put some science behind that hunch so that you can be really on point with detecting the Lance Armstrongs in your life. So let's just jump in, and so that you can start to do that with some reliability, with some science to back you up. So there's a lot of fraud in banking and finance. I think we all know that. The cyber fraud is what gets the headlines, but a lot of fraud is in person. And so you got external fraud, like coming into a bank, applying for a credit card, opening an account, faking your P&L statement, a business owner, like trying to get a loan. You got operational fraud, like in a job applicant setting. And so you want to be mindful of both. Like lies can come from any direction, either like internal in your system or external. And so this automation that the whole world is using, that can actually enhance opportunities for fraud, because when you just read what's on the application without taking into account who is in front of you and how that information is being delivered, that's when you're leaving yourself open for a lot of loss, because you're not getting the whole story. If you think that what is just black and white is enough, you are a sitting duck and you need to expect some loss coming your way. So that personal connection is the tool for early fraud detection. Okay. Now, the primary principle here, and this is why the FBI and the police lean on body language so heavily, is that the body can't lie. Words can lie, body can't lie. And so you want to start to understand that we tell lies all the time. The tells for the big lies and the little lies are the same, like white lies all the time. Like, oh, you haven't changed a bit. How many times have you said that? Or my phone died, right? Or today I'm sitting here in Colorado. I live in Boulder now, and it is dumping snow in the mountains. We have a little bit down here, but I mean, it is a badge of honor to call in sick on a powder day and go skiing or snowboarding. And I'm sure a lot of people are doing that right now. So these are the kind of lies that are more acceptable to tell. They're not the ones that are going to cause a big loss. They may actually kind of smooth things over a little bit. But when lies get deeper than that, with one exception, I'm going to say, you really want to start to watch for that. The one exception of when I would encourage you to lie is when someone asks, hey, does my butt look big in these pants? No, it doesn't. Right. So just know that not all lies are bad, but the tells are going to be the same. And you want to get yourself set up so that you're paying more attention to what's going on outside of you than what you were doing before. Right. So remember, the body can't lie. Body can't lie. This means yes. Right, in Western society, like this doesn't count in Asia, right? India, Asia doesn't count. This means yes, and this means no. Okay, so you got to look for the differences between the body language and the words. Like look for when they don't match. So if someone says, "I would never do that," you got a hot spot. Like that's what's called a hot spot. It's like, wait a minute, something doesn't match up. Or you can ask me anything. Right? Now, I had a client try to do that to me, and I stopped. He knows that I know this stuff, and he knows it too. And I said, "What are you hiding? What are you hiding?" Now, Bill Clinton did this. He stood in front of the TV camera, in front of all of us. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Right? He lied in front of all of us, and we could see it right there. Now, here's the thing: you don't want to incriminate on one like nod of the head, right, or one shake of the head. That's just not going to get you results, right? That's going to get you more accurate or more inaccuracies than accuracies. See, we use our head to accent things all the time. What you want to start to do is notice when you get clusters of hotspots. That's what the FBI calls it. So little things that you can start to see, like in one sentence even, that just don't match up, right? So we know a little bit about the head nod and the head shake, right? I mean, it can be even as every day it's like, that is a beautiful baby, right? So, but the key is, if you don't watch, you're not going to see it. If you have your head take an application from someone behind a computer screen as they sit out, just on the other side of your desk, and you're not watching them, at least out of the corner of your eye, you're going to miss it, right? So you got to watch. And I even tell my clients this: you got to pay attention, or you pay with pain. Pay attention or pay with pain. So what are some of the other things you can start to look for? Well, let's see. What about when people's lips disappear? Right? Like they asked Lance Armstrong this, and I like to pick on him because, well, he deserves it. And you see him on TV, textbook liar. I said, Lance, did you do all those performance enhancing drugs? And he'd always do this. He'd always go, no. So do you see how that's two hot spots right there? The lips roll back. When people's lips disappear, it's a cousin of people putting their hand over their mouth like this, like hiding things, holding things back. Okay, so you got to watch for these little things that look really natural, but and here's the thing: you got to believe it the first time. Believe it the first time. The second time, shame on you, right, for not seeing it. Now, let's see. I mean, and this could be in any kind of, even in investigation, interrogation. Maybe your dual controls have failed somehow in your bank, and there's a stack of bonds missing, and you think you found the culprit. You sit them down and you say, "What happened to that stack of bonds?" And they say, "No." Right? So you got a hot spot there. They know something. They're holding it back. Now, let's see. There's something else that I think with business owners you can begin to look for when they come in asking for a loan, and that is, I think, true excitement. I think a business owner that comes in with a big project that they're really working on, and they need this funding to really get them to the next level. I think there's a level of excitement there most of the time, and so you want to start to sniff this out. Are they deadpan with no excitement, or are they showing some emotion? So the way you can, there's two ways to sniff that out. First is you want to look at their eyes here. You smile not with your mouth. You smile with your eyes. Now, it's harder to tell because a lot of us have done the Botox thing, right? But when you see the crow's feet here, that shows true excitement. So look for that. It's not the Pan Am smile, like they call that, the stewardess smile, where it's a little hard to do because I am actually kind of happy to be here right now. But if I just smiled with my lips like that, you see how that's a different feeling, right? That's not true excitement. That's actually a subservient kind of gesture. When like you see a secretary do that, you'll see someone like a stewardess do that, someone who's serving you, but you shouldn't see it from a business owner who's actually legitimately excited about their project. Now, another way along that same vein is with people's tonality. And we saw this. Y'all remember Ryan Lochte at the Olympics? Like he had this whole story about how he was apprehended and robbed at this gas station at the Olympics. And when he told his story the first time to Billy Bush, he was deadpan, totally deadpan with emotion. He was recounting. It was event. There was no, like, if someone puts a gun to your head, that's an event, right? And so there was none of that. So when that's missing, you got a liar on your hands. And just a backstory on the Ryan Lochte thing, just for fun. I was able to talk to some of the reporters who were in Brazil, and actually I talked to our friend Kate Delaney, who was able to make some calls for me and connect me with them, and they said, they went there and didn't see any of the damage that was reported because it said, he ripped some stuff off a wall. And so the truth is somewhere in the middle. A lot of times, when there's smoke, there's fire. Like if it's an amazing story, a story that is just a little bit far-fetched and also a little bit more detailed than really what you bargained for when you ask the question, that's another hot spot. And what'll happen is liars will try to get out ahead of you and answer the questions that they think you're going to have and try to steer the conversation. And so you got to ask yourself, is that more information than I really need? Like, the other day at Christmas, my husband and my family and we were in Dallas, and we went to In-N-Out Burger. We were eating outside. It was a beautiful day, and we're getting in the car to leave, and we can't find my husband. We're like, where is he? Well, he's been cornered by this guy at In-N-Out Burger, and finally, the conversation ended. He gets in the car. He said, we're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you hanging around talking to people? He said, no, this guy came up to me, and this is what he said. He said, you're going to think this is really out of left field, but me and my wife were trying to check out of this hotel. We're $32.68 short. None of the churches around here will help us. Do you know any place where we can go to get this $38.68 or whatever the number was? And Matt didn't know the area. He doesn't help people like that anyway. But see, that's a dead giveaway, because not only did he give too much information about, we've gone to all the churches. It's $32.68. But he said, this is out of left field, right? And whenever people qualify their story like that, if people say, you're not going to believe this, or I couldn't believe it when this happened, or this is a crazy story, next thing is a lie for sure, right? So, just a side note on that, we knew this guy was lying because you pay up front for a hotel. Like maybe they give them a credit card for incidentals, but they don't hold you hostage. Excuse me. To check you out of a hotel. So let's see, how are we doing on time? Oh, okay. So I'm going to leave 10 minutes for Q&A, because I know there'll be some. So we got a couple things. Oh, okay. This is a good one. Tom Brady. Y'all remember that? Deflategate? Yeah. It's over 2 pounds of air in the football. And what we saw from Tom in his press conference, in his initial press conference about Deflategate, it's called Duper's Delight, because they asked him point blank, Tom, are you a cheater? And he smiled really big. He rolled his lips back, and he said, I don't believe so. You see 3 hot spots right in a row. And so Duper's Delight happens when, whoa, what's on my screen? Someone probably should unshare their screen. And so point being is that, thanks for that. And so whenever someone's asked a point blank yes or no question, were you profitable the last 3 years? Yeah, right? Maybe you got someone truthful on your hands. But if they say, were you profitable the last 3 years? And they go, well, what do you mean by profitable? Right? So do you see how they're challenging your question a little bit? And what happens is underneath, they think they're getting away with something, and they can't control body function as well. That's what happens is when we lie, we get into what's called cognitive overload. And so we try to take these things that are on autopilot and move them into the conscious realm. And so when that happens, something falls off the plate, and it's your body language, it's your timing, it's your tonality. And so let's see, do I have one more? Oh, this is another good one. And if, I don't want to talk too much about politics, but you remember when Sarah Palin was the craziest person in politics? Good times. But she really likes to use the shoulder shrug. I think she's a really textbook liar. And so she'll say, yeah, you can see Russia from my house, right? And so when people shrug their shoulders, that's uncertainty. So that means they're not 100% confident in what's the words coming out of their mouth. And so here's the thing. All of these look really natural. Okay, you got to be more heads up so that you can see these things and go, wait a minute, there's 3 right in a row. Hang on, got to dive deeper there. Or hang on, wait a minute, need to look at these people's files, at their financials a little more closely. Or you know what? Just say no. You can do that in commercial lending. If you're feeling something's not right and then you're seeing these signs, say no, because you're going to save yourself some problems in the end, when you watch and when you know what to look for. So easy to learn, more difficult to apply. When you want to practice, here's what you do. You watch the news, you watch reality TV, you watch talk shows, places where people are filmed candidly, right? So you can actually, be working when you're watching The Bachelor. I watch that because I'm researching. Like, that's what I tell my husband. So so it goes a little bit more smoothly at the house, but he still thinks it's garbage. So anyway, let's see. Questions. Linda, do you want to give me some questions?
Yeah. So Karen indicated that she looks a lot for where the hands are held. If they're kept in front of the person, it shows more perceived truth. If the hands go behind the back, she starts to question their words. And she's wondering if you have heard of that tale or if you agree that that's something to watch for.
Okay, so I'm going to give you half credit for accuracy on that. And I know you can't write a full dissertation in the chat box. So here's the thing. If people's hands, I'm going to put my hands up here. If people's hands are on the table, let's say this is on the table, and then all of a sudden you get to a very important line of questioning, right? And then they bring them on the table, put them in their lap, or put them behind them. That's your tell, okay? So it's not necessarily about the hands. It's about the shift in where they go with the timing of the content. Okay, so I think you're right on, and you can take it to a deeper level. Don't be absolute. And that's the other thing. You got to remember, these mingle in and out of each other. It's where the words and the body language and the tonality commingle that you get the real answers and that you want, right? So if, like I said, if you're like, oh, they move their hands, well, maybe, right? You need to ask a few more questions, and you can start to ask some simple questions to get a baseline of people. And then when you do that, you can start to see their demeanor shift as you move forward, as the questions get more complex. And that's when you can start to see, oh, wait a minute, right? Because there can be some easy questions, right? And the great thing is they're on most bank applications. Oh, what's your name? What's your middle name? What's your mother's maiden name? What's your dog's name is not on there. But people should be automatic with that. And if you see their pacing start to shift, like especially with like, what's your dog's name? You may have someone on your hands that you don't want to be doing business with. So, okay. Now what's up? Next, Linda.
So what's the difference between spotting fraud because of body language and the shifts and things you're talking about, and simply a prospective borrower who's just nervous? Coming in and asking for a loan can be nerve-wracking, and so they may get real talkative, give too many details and so forth, and they're just being nervous as opposed to being fraudulent. So any different, you've already given some good ideas, but anything else that sort of separates the nervousness from the, I don't know that I trust this person?
Oh yeah, so people are going to walk in a certain state, right? If they're going to be nervous, they're going to walk in nervous. So you can baseline that nervousness. There's kind of two baselines. There's calm baseline, and then there's nervous baseline, Okay. And you have got to figure out which one you're dealing with. Okay. Because even nervous baseline is going to show a significant shift in behavior if they're lying. Okay. So you got to watch for that. Like when people walk in, really, like the first minute you meet them, start noticing what are they doing, right? And notice when that shifts. And when it shifts, like, wait a minute, something's wrong with this question here. They're not telling you the whole truth.
All right. I would love to ask the people on the call to chat in not only a question, but if you have actually been involved in, not that you approved the loan or approved the account, but if you've had knowledge of a fraudulent situation, how did it get spotted or what did you miss? Is there anybody who's sort of willing to share? And Traci then can sort of add to your thought process.
Yeah. While we're waiting for that, I saw a thing pop up on the chat. It was like, what about a confusing story? And yes, that is a red flag. It's one of the biggest ones, and it's not that much different than the In-N-Out Burger story, because when a story is just off base, it's longer than it needs to be. It's more detailed. It's more crazy than what you'd normally think. Yes, absolute red flag. And what you're going to see as they tell that story are some of these signs that we've talked about. They may show all of them. They may show one of them, right? But they'll show it repeatedly. And so, seeing that is gonna help you determine fact from fiction. It'll help you dive more deeply into certain topics that need to be discussed.
Well, and we'll talk next week about red flags, but one of the things about red flags is it's simply an attention getter. It's not a deal killer. So if they've given you a confusing story, I know in my field of interest, which is financial statements and tax returns, half the time the borrower is confused about their tax returns or what the CPA is doing. And so they may tell you something that actually isn't accurate, and it's not because they're trying to be deceitful. They're just confused. What I like about Traci's suggestion is go ahead with a follow-on question, which could be as simple as, I'm not sure I understand that. Tell me a little bit more. And help them work it out. And as you do, you're watching for the tells that Traci's talking about. Are they getting more shifty, if you will, use that term? Or are they simply trying to work through something that they're confused about? Because borrowing and finances for business owners, especially small business owners, it's confusing.
Absolutely. And I think you brought up a really good point. And then I'm going to wrap up my segment here because we don't need to talk about this all day, although we could. So I get more, I'm writing a new book. I get more into interrogation and things like that. And some of the things that you just said, hey, I'm confused here. Help me understand this. And understanding how to take those conversations so that you can peel back the layers and really find the truth is one of the things that I really get into. And so here's the deal. It's brand new. I'm just about to send it to editing, but it's self-published, so it'll be out here, I'm hoping, by March, if everything goes good. If you'd like a copy of the book, just send me an email. It's Traci at tracibrown.com. It's TRACI at tracibrown.com. And I will send you a pre-order link, so you'll be one of the first to get it. I'll tell you, it's going to be short. So it won't take long to read, but there's going to be some fun stories and a lot of really cool techniques. So I'm going to wrap my part up, but
I want to ask you two quick questions before you close out.
I have a question too.
No, you go ahead.
Traci, Philip here. Eye contact. I've heard it kind of both ways. You shouldn't get too much direct eye contact, and you shouldn't be too shifty either, like looking away all the time.
Oh, okay. So eye contact is the normal amount of eye contact. So people don't think you're shifty or looking away is 60% in a conversation. 60%. And so some people have a look to talk rule. They're going to look at you a lot, like they're going to, look at you. And other people just look away a lot more. Okay. So you don't want absolutes. What you want is a shift in behavior. So if someone generally looks you in the eye a lot, and then all of a sudden they're not, that's a hotspot. Okay. So, or if they look away a lot and then all of a sudden they're, eye to eye, that's a significant shift in behavior. So you're looking for the shifts, right, off of your baseline.
Okay.
Good.
Great.
Okay.
Well,
What else,
Traci,
Right.
does that vary with different cultures as well? Some are more
Yeah, we're talking about American Western society body language. I'll tell you right now, I am not an international body language expert. So if you go overseas, you are on your own. And don't come looking at me for answers.
Okay, just two quick questions that I think you can probably answer together. But so I've listened to this, I've taken in the information, and I want to go out and I apply it. And I'm all about applying in a simple fashion. Are there 2 or 3 most common hotspots? And then after that, what do I do once I identify a hotspot? Now I'm in a delicate situation. What's my next step? I'm sure I don't go liar, pants on fire.
So here's the thing. Once you identify your hotspot, in Meridith, you're going to know this actually better than me, because if y'all don't know this, Meridith is like the banking queen, and so there's certain like policies, protocols, and things that bankers need to do, and there's no way I could tell you all of them when. It's like, wait a minute, this guy's not telling the truth. And a lot of times the answer is just no. Like the Community Reinvestment Act is one thing, but in commercial loans, just say no. And there's a fine line between, building your bank's business and turning everybody away. However, I think when you have some tools, you're going to be able to make more, scientific and elegant decisions as opposed to just opinion, which that's what a gut feel is. And so your other question, the first question was,
Are there 2 or 3 that are most common?
Oh, most, you know what? No, because
Okay.
everybody has
Different.
their own way to do things. And so when you baseline people, remember, you can baseline them calm, baseline them nervous, and you notice the shifts off of that. That is the key. And you're going to see something different, because what will happen is, like, if you talk to poker players who know it, like they start to know the regulars at the casinos. Like I talked to one yesterday. People do the same thing all the time. Mm-hmm. And so you can start to profile each, like profiling has a bad name, right? Yeah. But I say, you better be profiling people, because
we profile in the bank all the time.
Yeah. So profile people's tendencies, know what they're going to do, and be a step ahead, know what they're likely thinking, and know when something doesn't match up. So, okay. So there's just one more question that I know everybody has, and then I'm going to turn it over to, I think, to Linda. You're probably saying, Traci, when you raced Lance Armstrong, who won? Is anybody thinking that? Well, so watch me close. Knowing what you know now, I'm going to tell you. You ready? It was me.
Very good.
All righty then. Well, and next week we will be covering red flags or green lights. Don't get your signals crossed. And this actually is also going to cover what just came up at the end of this one, and that is, what do you do to expect fraud? It's very critical that you do the right things to protect the bank or your company, so you have to be careful what you say. And while saying no is an option, you've got to be able to document why you said no and communicate that. So we'll be talking about several things next week. One is, I'm going to share with you the 3 things that CPAs who are doing an audit of a company consider to decide whether fraud is more likely than not. So put you on the same page with the CPAs. How do you decide in advance that it might be more likely than not? Number 1. Number 2, then, we will be talking about some red flags that I think would be a potential indicator of fraud. However, I really don't want you to say no to good loans. We need loan volume of performing loans. We need to protect the relationships with bank customers who not only are good customers for us, but are referral sources. So yes, we want to spot fraud, and we don't want to see it when it is not there. So we'll look at some of those things that might look like a red flag and should get your attention. However, there might be some green light explanations that make sense. I'll talk a little bit about what would be some of those follow-on questions when you first get a suspicion that there is a concern. And often your first suspicion will be because of what Traci's just been sharing with us, that somehow there's a disconnect there. So what is the next thing when it comes to their financial records? Financial statements, tax returns, what they're telling you, and what they've put in their application. So those are some things we'll be covering next week, same time, same station. Feel free to send the original invitation you got to others of your colleagues so they can come in as well. And Meridith, do you have anything to say to wrap us up?
I just want to close out and saying, Traci, excellent job. Linda, I'm looking forward to next week, and we'll wrap up in our third week by bringing it all together with how do you have those conversations and how do you actually turn these difficult situations into some really good business. So right now I got to go out and see what people are doing with their eye contact and are they shifting and all that kind of thing.
All right. Thank you, Traci.
Thank you. Oh, the only thing I want to say is everybody will get a recording as well as an invite. Please feel free to share these recordings with your team, with your teams, with other people, even when you have the relatives over for dinner. So.
And hi, Kimmy and Alicia and the other folks that I recognize on the screen. Good to see you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.